Well, howdy folks, this is Clay Steele and welcome to the campfire. This is, where we tell stories and enjoy each other's company, talk about things. And being the 4th of July weekend makes it even nicer. Good time for a campfire, where it's safe. So we're gonna have us a little one and we're gonna tell stories. And I got a good one for you tonight. Oh, we got another run at the old Hank Dillon Bigfoot hunter. Oh, some of you might have to go back to the library and read up on Hank Dillon. It's a series that Ginger started writing not too long ago, but we took a break from it to tell you some other fun stuff. So stick around as Project Silva, the Cryptid War begins. And now this is part 1. In the last explosive episode, chaos, if you remember, erupted as Facility Black Dome came under full attack by the very creatures that they'd been studying. It was Bigfoot. As the hybrid and its kin overran the facility, do you remember that part? Frantic alerts rang through each level as the corridors were locked down. Survivors inside the Black Dome sent panic transmissions as they were hunted down by these massive creatures. And if you remember Wade Dillon, that's Hank's brother. He's a prominent Denver lawyer. He uncovered shocking evidence at the heart of the Facility Black Dome. It was a top secret underground lab hidden in the mountains of Colorado, where scientists had successfully engineered a hybrid creature. It's part human, part Bigfoot. This genetically enhanced alpha, it wasn't just surviving. It was leading an uprising that Hank was witness to, watching in horror as the terrifying images filled the screen. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Tom and Darnell were rescued by Darnell's secretive daughter, Dusty Rhodes, who revealed herself to be a private investigator. She was no stranger to dangerous situations. But now, got you a little bit of background. We're going to continue with the story. The shrill tone of emergency phones echoed off the cold steel walls of the secure Pentagon offices and the command centers in Colorado, Nevada, and back in Virginia. Red lights pulsed above every doorway. General orders were barked, and intelligence analysts scrambled to decipher the disjointed messages coming in from the Facility Black Dome. Before the signal cut out entirely. At Cheyenne Mountain Facility, one trembling tech whispered what no one else wanted to say aloud. They're in control now. The subjects, they've taken the entire facility. Meanwhile, back at Black Dome, the survivors, what few remained, had barricaded themselves in level B4, the cryo storage wing. With power flickering and the air stale from the failing ventilation system, they watched the security monitors in horror. The footage, it was grainy, but it was clear enough. Hulking shadows moving through smoke, dragging bodies, tearing through reinforced blast doors like they was cardboard. And at the lead was Subject 013, the hybrid. A towering creature with the intelligence of a man and the feral instincts of a predator. 013 had outgrown its containment chamber months ago, but no one dared to admit it. And now he was in command, communicating with the other cryptid specimens like a general on a battlefield. The dim emergency lighting in level B4 cast long flickering shadows over the terrified survivors. The air was heavy with smoke and the metallic tang of blood. Sparks still spat from torn open electrical panels, and water dripped from ruptured pipes. And somewhere above, deep guttural roars echoed through the facility like thunder rolling in a forgotten canyon. Colonel Maureen Kellis staggered to the half-shattered comms terminal, her uniform soaked in blood that wasn't even hers. She ripped a damaged headset off of a corpse and put it on her head, fingers shaking as she began manually cycling power from the backup generators into the auxiliary communication array. Come on, she muttered. Just one bar, just one signal spike. Across the room, Tech Officer Randy Parnell had opened a backpack trunk line and struggled to reroute signals through a series of decaying relay nodes buried miles beneath the surface. You know, if I can bypass the dead routers and stabilize the RF booster, Randy muttered, I might be able to ping the DC grid. One ping, one chance. As they worked, one of the younger scientists, Dr. Lena Park, held the cracked remains of a biometric reader. Still in shock, she whispered to herself. We never should have pushed the hybrid that far. We made it too smart. We never dreamed it could commandeer our network and our communication system. We never thought it could communicate telepathically. Randy's hand trembled as he activated the uplink. The screen lit up, faint green characters blinking to life. Satellite lock, initializing, signal acquired. We have a signal, Randy shouted. Transmitting now. The colonel grabbed a hold of the mic. This is Facility Black Dome. We are compromised. Subject entities have breached. Repeat. Containment failure. Code red. Multiple casualties. Request immediate armed response. The message played once, then again, and the signal went dead. Wade sat in the dim glow of his monitor, unmoving. The cursor blinked against the terminal window like a ticking clock, waiting for his next keystroke. But his hands hovered above the keyboard, trembling. On screen, the feed from Facility Black Dome had cut to static. The horrific scene he had witnessed replayed in Wade's mind over and over again. He rubbed his face, heart pounding, adrenaline still coursing through him. His office was quiet, a stark contrast to the carnage that he'd just witnessed. The camera feeds, the heat sensors, the biometric alerts, all of them gone dark. The hybrid had shut it all down. Beside the monitor, his cell phone lay untouched. He stared at it like it might bite him. Who would he call? 911? Homeland Security? The governor? Most wouldn't even know what the Black Dome was, let alone believe a story involving a giant hybrid leading an army of cryptids and a rogue military science lab buried under a mountain. And then there was the other problem. How did he know about it? Well, what he was doing was very illegal. Hacking into a top-secret government facility wasn't a parking ticket. It was a felony, and most likely federal prison for the rest of his natural life. Wade had operated in gray zones before, but now this was going to be different. Man, I'm going to lose my license, my family, my career, my freedom, he whispered to himself. I'll lose everything. But how could he not act? He thought of Hank, of his late father's legacy, of the creature on the other side of that door. And finally, of the people trapped inside. Doctors, techs, scientists, soldiers, people who might still be alive. He picked up the phone, paused, and hovered over the call button. He almost dialed. Instead, he opened a secure messaging window and typed out a single message to an encrypted contact listed only as Ghost Horse. Facility Black Dome compromised. Subject breached containment. Hybrid active. Possible survivors. Code. Project Silva. Then you'll know what to do. With that, he did hit send. Then slowly, Wade leaned back in his chair, staring at the static. The reply from Ghost Horse came much faster than expected. Confirmed. Eyes on. Do not make further contact. We are mobilizing. Keep your head down. GH. Wade read it twice. Then again. We are mobilizing? That meant that they believed him. Or worse, they already knew. God forgive me, he whispered. By contacting Ghost Horse, he had effectively forced the hand of the government and the most top secret clandestine agency in all the United States. Now there was no longer any way to deny the existence of the hybrid creature or the secretive Project Silva. His actions, though morally motivated, pulled the lid off a classified Pandora's box. And this would initiate a chain reaction. The military or black ops forces would have no choice but to send in elite teams to neutralize the threat, or worse, sterilize the entire site, meaning a deadly and indiscriminate assault, possibly with chemical or nuclear methods. That means lives will be lost, no doubt. And it could also mean possible retaliation from the creatures themselves. Wade had, in effect, sparked a war between man and monster, between secrecy and exposure, and unleashed something that could not be undone. Now, there would be no turning back. Why the hell had Hank gotten him into this mess in the first place? From this day forward, Wade knew that his life would not be the same. A heavy summer rain pattered against the tin roof of Hank Dillon's cabin, nestled deep in the wooded solitude of Red Feather Lakes, Colorado. Michelle sat curled up on the couch, headphones on, lost in some podcast that Hank suspected had more ghosts than facts. Hank sat at the kitchen table cleaning his rifle, methodical and quiet, as if the process itself could help him sort the mess out in his mind. His phone buzzed on the table, and it was Wade. Wade's voice came fast, low, and tight, devoid of its usual lawyer polish. "Hank, you need to get to Denver tonight." Hank froze mid-motion. Cleaning rod paused halfway through the barrel. "Oh, what's going on?" "Not over the phone," Wade snapped. "I'm serious. I can't say more." Hank looked towards the couch. Michelle was still absorbed in her podcast, unaware. You're starting to sound like a very bad spy novel," Hank muttered. "No joke, Hank. I saw something. A lot of something. And there's more. A hell of a lot more than I ever wanted to know or to see." Hank stood slowly, his voice turning flinty. "You in danger?" "Not yet, but I could be. We both could be. I've been digging in places I shouldn't have. But I know for a fact that Dad knew all about this. We've been standing on the edge of something big our whole lives, and we never even knew it." Silence stretched between them, filled only by the sound of the rain hitting the tin roof. "I can be there by midnight," Hank said firmly. "But you'd better have coffee and bourbon waiting. Yeah, bring the old field recorder, the one from Dad's storage box. And bring his notebooks. Hank, just bring the whole damn box." That made Hank pause. "What for?" "Because I found out something tonight, and it has to do with Dad. Just bring it." The line went dead. Hank stood motionless for a moment, the cabin suddenly feeling smaller and darker. Then he turned to Michelle. "Pack your things," he said. "We're headed to Denver." She pulled off her headphones. What's going on?" Hank grabbed his coat and his rifle. "I don't know yet," he said, "but it sounds like my brother just kicked a hornet's nest, and now it's waking up." Tom Sheffield looked back towards the small hunting cabin they'd just retreated from, its faded green paint now splattered with blood and broken glass. Tom, Darnell Rhodes, and his daughter Dusty had been ambushed by hired killers, most likely sent by the government agency that was trying to keep Project Silva silent. The three had taken shelter in the small cabin in the Catskills, and now the men who'd attacked them were all dead. "God, we can't leave them like this. It's too dangerous. If they've got tracking gear on them, they'll know their operatives are down and send more," Dusty said as she checked the pulse on the last man down. "I say we pull them inside and torch the place." Tom blinked. Are you serious? She crouched beside one of the bodies and pulled out a burner phone from the man's vest, tossing it to her father. Wipe the prints. Check the GPS logs. Then we douse the inside with kerosene, throw their gear on top of them, and light it up. It'll look like a bad deal gone sideways. Darnell gave her a nod. She's right. We don't have any time to bury 'em, and if more are coming, we need to be long gone before they start asking any questions. Tom hesitated, the weight of what they were doing settling heavy on his conscience. God, this is arson and murder. No, Dusty said firmly, this is survival. Minutes later, the three of them stood 50 yards away, watching orange flames lick the edge of the roof as thick smoke spiraled into the sky. Dusty adjusted her coat and slung her rifle back over her shoulder. Let's get going, she said. There's a safe house near Kingston that I'm aiming for. We'll lay low there until we can make contact with the boss. Tom's jaw tightened up. The boss? And just who might that be? He glanced at Darnell. You know, I really don't like being kept in the dark. What the hell is really going on here? Come on, was all Darnell said. This war's just getting started. In a secure briefing room in the Pentagon, the fluorescent lights overhead buzzed faintly, casting a sterile glare across the long steel conference table. A heavy silence settled over the room like a fog. The only sound was the ticking of the wall-mounted clock, the occasional shifting of suits, medals, and freshly starched uniforms. 12 individuals sat around that table. Half of them was military and half of them from the intelligence community. All of them stone-faced. At the head of the table stood General Carlton Bremer. His closely cropped silver hair and piercing blue eyes giving him the air of a man used to having the last word. He tapped a small control pad, and a screen descended from the ceiling behind him. Static. Then the grainy last known footage from Facility Black Dome flashed for life. The room dimmed as the screen showed flickering security camera feeds, blood-slicked corridors, torn-up blast doors, heat signatures moving with unnatural speed through the dark. General Bremer cleared his throat. Well, by now you've all seen the classified reports, but now you've seen the footage. Black Dome is gone. Our containment has failed. He paused at that. And not because of an accident, not because of a system failure, but because we bred something that turned out smarter than the people monitoring it. A low murmur moved through the room. Across from him, Evelyn Hart, that's the Director of National Intelligence, spoke up, her voice as cold as the steel table beneath her folded hands. 013 was never supposed to be field capable. We had safeguards. And yet, Bremer snapped, he's leading the other entities like a war chief. Coordinated, strategic. We believe he absorbed tactical data from the Black Dome's internal systems. He knows our layouts, our protocols, possibly even our strike patterns. An Air Force colonel leaned forward. Sir, are we prepared to sterilize this site? Bremer nodded. Yes. Contingency protocol has already been activated. Drone surveillance has gone dark, so we're greenlighting. Operation Clean Sweep. Full thermal assault. If necessary, biological agents. Every trace of Facility Black Dome must be erased. Director Hart narrowed her eyes. And the survivors? Bremer gave a grim smile. If they're in the blast radius, they're acceptable losses. A silence followed. No one daring to challenge the cold calculus of the general's decision. Then it was a low-ranking analyst near the back, a young man named Sergeant Clayton Reeve, spoke up hesitantly. Sir, with respect, If the hybrid is intelligent enough to coordinate an escape, what if he anticipates its response? What if this is exactly what he wants us to do? All eyes in the room turned to him. Bremer stared at the sergeant for a long moment. Then God help us all. He turned to Director Hart. Notify Langley. Alert the NSA's off-grid counterintelligence teams and get me Ghost Horse. She blinked. You think Ghost Horse is still active? He better be, Bremer muttered, because if 013 is loose, he is the only one who ever got close to something like this and lived. The screen behind him flickered once more. Footage rolled again. 013 turning to face a camera, eyes glowing. A smirk that looked almost human. Bremer killed the feed. Meeting adjourned. He picked up a black phone on the wall and pressed a single button. This is Bremer. Initiate full deployment. Burn it all. As the brass filtered out of the room, each carrying secure folders and dark expressions, Director Evelyn Hart lingered behind. She moved towards General Bremer, her heels tapping against the polished floor, her voice low but firm. Carlton, we've contained worse. We've handled rogue AI, psychic anomalies, and even these incident sites from '97. But this, she tapped the blank screen, this is something else. Bremer didn't even look at her. He stood still, watching a red LED blink slowly on the secure phone. Hart narrowed her eyes. Sir, do you think this is bigger than just a rogue hybrid? He turned to her now, his voice flat. You remember the original Project Silva hypothesis? That some cryptid lineages had a form of proto-language, a form of communal intelligence? Hart nodded slowly. Well, Bremer said, we didn't just confirm it, we weaponized it, and now they've unified. He crossed to the window slit overlooking the Potomac, sunlight creeping up through the smoky haze. We authorized that facility to be built under the assumption that we'd control the narrative, contain the science. But now we've built something too smart, too fast, too angry, and it has an army. So yes, I do think it's more than just rogue hybrid. I think it's about preventing a second uprising. If even one of these hybrids makes it into the wild, unleashed, every forest, every mountain, every forgotten cave in this country becomes a potential war zone. Hart straightened. And what about Ghost Horse? Bremer smiled grimly. He'll surface. They always do when the blood starts running. Just outside of Kingston, New York, the SUV bumped along an unmarked dirt road, tires grinding over fallen branches and patches of rock. Darnell sat in the passenger seat, gripping the dash with one hand as they hit a particularly bumpy patch. You sure this place is still here? He asked, scanning the landscape. I haven't been to this outpost since the Bush administration. Dusty Rhodes kept her eyes on the path ahead, one hand on the wheel, the other resting casually on the holster strapped to her thigh. It's here, she said. It's built into a ravine and covered with brush. You wouldn't even know it was there unless you were specifically looking for it. Tom looked at her from the back seat. And who uses it? I'm assuming not the Boy Scouts. My mother, Dusty replied simply. Before she vanished in the Nevada desert, she left behind safe houses all across the country. And this one's completely off of every radar. Not even my old PI network has it marked. Well, you two are just full of surprises, aren't you? Tom grunted. They passed a rusted-out hunting blind and a faded sign half swallowed by vines that simply read, No entry. Danger of collapse. Dusty killed the engine just past a dry creek bed and stepped out. Here, she said, we walk from here, pulling a camouflage car tarp out of the back and throwing it over the vehicle. Yeah, can you help me with this? The girl needs help, Tom smirked under his breath. Imagine that. They hiked another half-mile through thick brush till the path ended up at a moss-covered outcropping. Dusty approached a bent pine and reached beneath it, pulled out an old rusted bear trap, and hidden inside was a keyboard and a solar battery pack barely the size of a postcard. With a few quick taps, 5, 2, 2, 1, 3, a steel panel groaned open in the rock face, revealing a short tunnel lit by dim blue LEDs. Tom whistled. Well, that's not ominous at all. Inside, the air was dry and cool. The walls were lined with reinforced concrete and shelves filled with old weapons, canned rations, and rolled maps. A satellite uplink dish rested in a foam case on the far wall beside a pair of two-way radios and a crate of ammunition marked DOD, experimental. Dusty locked the panel behind him and started checking the supplies. Well, we stay here 2 nights max, she said. If what we saw in the Catskills was just a taste of what the government's willing to do to bury Project Silva, she trailed off. Tom glanced around the room. Who are you people? He asked. Darnell, I didn't realize this went so deep. Darnell lowered himself onto a cot with a groan, but didn't make any attempt to answer Tom's question. Dusty picked up an encrypted radio and flipped through the frequencies. Nothing but static. Then, on channel 7, a voice came through. Facility Black Dome. Compromised. Repeat, subjects breached containment. Hybrid active. Dusty's eyes met Darnell's. Well, she said flatly, that answers one question. Tom swallowed hard. And raises about 20 more. She nodded. Welcome to the deep end. You better have a seat. This is one hell of a story. Hank and Michelle loaded the dogs in the truck, threw in their duffels, and headed out in the dark on their way to Denver. Sassy jumped up into the back seat of the truck, tail thumping in excitement. Michelle's 2 dogs, Duke and Dixie, curled in close to Sassy on that blanket-covered bench seat. Do we need to stop by your place and check on the goats? Hank asked. Michelle shook her head. No, there's plenty of meadow grass, and they can drink from the creek. They'll be just fine till we get back. Now, you sure you don't want to wait till daylight? Hank shook his head, slamming the tailgate shut. No time. Wade sounded really upset. Now, I've only heard him like that once before, and that was the day that Dad died. He walked around to the driver's side, threw one last look at the cabin. Somehow, he had a feeling that they wouldn't be coming back here for a while. Michelle climbed into the passenger seat without another word. The truck rumbled to life, headlights slicing through the forest of aspen trees. Hank pulled onto the dirt road, the long descent toward Denver unfolding ahead of them like a shadowed path through the unknown. Hank was clenching the steering wheel. He could feel the prickling along the back of his neck. The very same feeling he got when he knew he was walking into danger. Something massive was shifting beneath the surface of everything he thought he knew, and somehow he and Wade were in the center of it all. He glanced in the rearview mirror. The dark forest faded behind them, and ahead, the storm was waiting. Well, there you go, folks. Some more Hank Dillon for you. Now, this story's coming together, and by golly, we'll have some more for you next week. So come on back to the campfire where we tell stories and enjoy each other's company. And, well, until I see y'all again, which will be soon, be good to yourselves, be good to everyone around you. This is Clay Steele now. Good night. Hey folks, Clay Steele here. You know, I spend a lot of time outdoors around this here campfire. If you're like me, you get downright annoyed by all those pesky mosquitoes buzzing around. They're just looking for a free meal. Nothing ruins a good night under the stars faster than slapping and scratching at bites. And that's why I keep the bee itch stop. I keep it handy. One swipe and that itch is gone. No more burning, no more scratching, just good old relief. Made right here in Nevada with all natural ingredients. It's safe for the whole family. So if you're tired of being a mosquito buffet, do yourself a favor and get you some bee itch stop today. And this is Clay Steele. Watch out for them bugs.